if you ever see me giggling when I first start recording, you know why now. I do stupid shit. Is to get my juices flowing. Hello, welcome. So I'm gonna just do a quick little intro because we haven't done this in a while. This is me and my cousin Gabby going live. This is episode 3 of our Third Eye Cousin Evolutionary kind of chats that we are having. And so for those of you that are tapping in, turning on, tuning in, thank you, welcome. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to all of our channels and stuff like that, and take part of our evolutionary discussions. We really truly don't have anything like planned to talk about, but we got lots to say. So we're going to see how that goes in every kind of way, which is really cool. We took a little time out from doing our videos together because you were doing a move. There's a lot of things going on too. We're both like busy alchemists too. We very busy. So some of us I have my phone still on. So like if I have to answer something, I have to answer something. Same with you, right? Like, like whatever the things that we do. So now you are in Florida. Congratulations. Yep. And I'm so happy that you guys are safe from this Hurricane Ian kind of thing and stuff like that. So I know a lot of people are not and all this kind of stuff, but like, whatever. So yeah, so that's the introduction. Now you and I just start talking. So we're going to be talking like we're just talking to us. But that was just the introduction part, so that everyone's like, what is going on here? Why are they just talking? Like, this is why we're talking. Okay, so now you can participate in the commentary. You can participate in in the commentary. And the more that you participate and things like that, or you follow, you subscribe, and you get more in tune with that which we discuss, you can contribute to that which we discuss too. So like, we're going to try to meet up as often as we possibly can with our schedules and stuff like that, and then post it on, my YouTube. I don't know. Do you even have a YouTube?
No, I got to make one though.
Right. So yeah, and then I send you the videos anyway, so like you can do with them as you want. Like if you ever wanted to share them, if you had like, I know your YouTube is probably going to be for your business, but or if not, entertainment or something like that. What would be your YouTube channel about?
I don't know. I was thinking about that. Somebody told me to make a YouTube channel, but I don't want it all to be business because I do a lot of business stuff on Instagram and all that. So to me, it would be more like breaking down Bible scriptures, understanding spirit versus flesh and all of that stuff, just.
Oh, okay. So it'll be spiritual, kind of spiritually inclined.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Nice. Not the fake spirituality, one with the universe.
I have so many mixed feelings about how I feel about the spiritual community today that is so superficial in every kind of way. And I don't like to talk about it in a way that makes me think I'm better in my spirituality, because there's a lot of people like, in the religious doctrinated system that looks at my spirituality and thinks I'm so wrong. You know what I mean? Like, or the way that I am and stuff like that. So it's not about passing so much judgment in that kind of degree about who's right, who's wrong, and all this kind of stuff. It's just the popularity. Like, I don't know how much you are on YouTube and what you watch on there, that's your own kind of stuff. But like based off of like kind of like the stuff that I do too, like even though I started changing it up and things like that, and even from when I first started my YouTube channel, I said from the very beginning, don't box me in to one style, one genre. I'm evolutionary, and as I evolve, my channel too will evolve. So if you don't get accustomed to one kind of thing, like ever,
right.
Like, so, but I do find myself finding like I'm led in certain areas now that I'm sticking my nose, wetting my toes in the outside world. Outside of this, I'm paying attention more, and it's very alarming to the levelings of like monkey brain reality that lives out there, that is just like a copycat society of digital fame hunger, or like, so I just feel like whatever didn't get checked from all these decades of generations of children growing up feeling neglected or not heard, not received, not loved, that solution never presented itself. And so like me, I know I'm older than you, right? But we're still from the 80s, I believe. Right? Yeah. I'm an 80s baby. So I didn't know, and it's so funny. Do you understand this Gen X, Gen Z, millennial, baby boomer language kind of thing? Do you know what each of them mean?
Yeah, like baby boomers are
our parents.
Our parents, like 50s.
1950s, 60s. Right. I didn't know any of this. So literally I just checked this information out like yesterday or the day before because I didn't know what I fell under. I'm like, what am I? Right. And is it true? Like, you know, so I wanted to do my own little investigation. I'm like, I don't know if I'm a millennial. I don't know if I'm Gen X. I don't know if I'm Gen Z. I don't know. Like, I'm Jennifer. Like, I don't know. So it turns out, I think I'm a millennial.
Yeah, we're considered. I just don't like that. That's another box. That's just another box. Because I don't think like a millennial. I think I'm a little more mature than what they consider millennials to be.
Right.
Only because, you know, I don't know. It's just we're all different mentally. For me, it's just a matter of maturity, spiritual
evolution.
Maturity. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Evolution. Right.
But the baby boomers make sense, right? Because baby boomers is actually that group of people that just had a whole bunch of babies. So the baby boomers just describes the amount of children that were born in the 1950s and the 1960s. And I know that because in the field that I'm in, we're kind of following the baby boomer boom, right? So they describe how
they're your clients.
In the 50s and 60s, there was a big growth in baby formula, right? In sales of baby formula. Then there was the sales of toys. Then that followed into the sales of houses and cars and all of that. And now the baby boomer generation is getting ready to retire. So I deal with a lot of people with 401ks and retirement plans and all that. And that's like the biggest market that there is.
Right, because they're dying next.
Right. Exactly. So when they say that there's going to be this huge, right now we're going to have the biggest transfer of wealth, that's because the baby boomers are starting to die and they're passing their money onto their children. So.
Right. So we pay for our deaths too. We pay in life and we pay for our deaths. Like, don't get me started with that shit. But it's interesting. So I've been covering like the whole Jeffrey Dahmer thingy, this Netflix series. And the only reason that I'm doing that is because this is quality time. My daughter got me convinced and I decided to use it evolutionary. Like, so I'm doing the episodes and stuff like that. And I'm speaking it from an evolutionary perspective. But you know how like in early childhood school, we learned those timelines, history's timelines, right? And we would have to fill in, like we would get tests and quiz, like what happened here in 1970s thing, 1920 this, like when did Congress passed this, when did this all, so we learned timelines early on in elementary school. So this is reminding me of timelines, but we're living through this timeline. So we're able to see, because that happened in 1991. And for me, 1991 was a big pivotal year for me because it was my first cycle of life for me, right? Because my mom died in 1991 and I already had like a traumatic upbringing and stuff like that. So 1991, I was old enough to understand.
Like 12, 13?
No, I was, my mom died a month before my 10th birthday. But so in 1991, I was like, even though, so I've always felt like the youngest, even though, because like all my classmates were older than me because my birthday is in December. So even like when I graduated, I was still the age I hadn't reached. So like when I would start the new school year, I was still like, so when I started junior high school, most of the kids are 11, 12 years old. I was 10. You understand what I mean? So like my mom died when I was in the 5th grade, 1991, 1992, I graduated the 5th grade and I was 10. Most of my peers were 11, 12 years old, like, because like whatever. So I always felt like the baby and, you know, like, so I always felt like in my height too, I was little and the youngest, like, you know what I mean? So what was the whole point of that?
Oh yeah,
1991. So yeah, no, but this is pivotal, right? So in doing this whole Netflix series, it's bringing this timeline of events that I happen to have been alive for. So now I'm in this adult state revisiting this timeline of events. And so it's from this conscious state that I'm receiving this information, that I can look at it, not from I'm in a classroom learning this. I can read for myself, I can understand for myself, and I can see what happened here, right? So in 1991, one of the freaking, like, I still can't get over this. And we think about like how like propaganda and all this kind of stuff and all the lead ups to a lot of different events. So you know what movie was released before Jeffrey Dahmer in 1991 was actually captured for these murders? No. Guess what freaking movie came out? And you know, to this day, you once I tell you the movie, you'll know how great that movie did. Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Come on now, like, I don't know how, like, so, all right, so now I'm doing all these timeline of events, and I'm seeing certain kind of things that has been pushed into. Also, 1991, right? And I could be, it's either 1981 or 1991, because I was looking at major events from 1981 and 1991, so I don't fully quote me, but it's either 1981 or 1991, because also you have the AIDS epidemic growing and stuff like this, and people learning about this fine. So there's a lot of historical moments of things that are happening. Silence of the Lambs came out before Jeffrey Dahmer was, caught. Then Jeffrey Dahmer was caught, but this movie was already out about cannibalism and all this kind of stuff. And we could travel that rabbit hole another day, right? But also the first .com kind of website.
First website? Oh, okay.
Right. So this is why our generation, this is why I cannot watch TV. This is why I don't, even though I use all these things and stuff like that, I'm not lost without these things, right? Because you got to think about the generation we come from. We played outside. I didn't have a lot of toys growing up, and I didn't have no digital kind of stuff. Like when I was little, my dad had the Atari, and that was already old for me. Like, even though that was new and all that kind of stuff. And the only game system he ever got me, and with one game, and I played it that whole night, finished it by that morning, I never touched it again, was the Sega Genesis Sonic. Yep. And he never bought me another game. He's like, oh, I got you a system and you never played it. I played it, finished the game that night, morning time, new game. I need a new game. You never got me a new game. So I never played the system again. Why am I going to play something I beat? Like, I don't understand. I finished it in one night. I didn't sleep or anything like that. And so, we come from that. And I'm not saying I never watched TV and all this kind of stuff. It's just, I'm very active. You see how, whatever. And I just have other things I could do. I'd rather be on TV than watch TV. Yeah. I feel like that. Like, that's how I feel. I'm like,
I mean, think about what TV was for. It's programming.
Right.
And now it's funny because now we could look back and see the programming, right?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's happening, like, with now just capturing this Netflix series, because I'm seeing a whole bunch of other stuff. So like all these little different departments of these things coming out, like the website, the digital, the AIDS stuff, all these little things and stuff like that. Now I want to go back to what I was saying before. Now I'm like writing reading some other stuff, and I'm getting myself distracted. But what were we saying? I like that we do this, because when I'm doing this by myself and I'm like, what was I saying? Oh my gosh, sometimes I have to pause it and I'm just like regather, because so many things come through my mind, and it's just like I get really excited, and then it's just like it jumbles up inside. But gotta talk. I'm gonna remember it in a second.
No, 1991 was a good year.
I know, but the whole point, even before that, like the whole point, I was even bringing up the timeline. I was talking about something else, and now I lost that something else because I started babbling about everything else, and I'm like, blah, blah, whatever.
I think you were getting to the point where you were saying how you could see what was happening back then from the perspective you have today.
Right, but it had to do something with the whole freaking digital stuff, like that. The whole purpose that, right? The whole purpose is that I was saying it was the difference, like,
Well, with the kids now, you mean? like how they grew up now.
Yeah, but now I'm confusing my previous video that I was recording before speaking to you, and now I see a whole bunch of stuff I said, and I just don't know where I said it. Oh my goodness, I don't care. Like, this is the human process. But anyways, no, but we were saying something, and you were talking. So go ahead, talk. It's gonna come to me. I don't want it to.
No, I don't know. Like, it's true. I mean, I kind of enjoy looking back and trying to connect dots.
Right.
Like, oh,
I'm
this
doing that
happened
too.
because of that.
Yeah.
I think that's just a natural, not natural, because well, yes, it's a natural part of growth,
right,
of elevating your mindset and all of that. Because I don't know, I was having a conversation recently about how people just live their day to day, right? Like, you go to work, you come home, you sit down in front of the TV, you go to sleep, you wake up, you go to work, you come home, the same routine, and nobody gives any thought to, like, why am I doing this?
right.
Why am I waking up at 5 a.m. to go to work at a place that I don't even enjoy, and and then come home and do all of that stuff? And I feel like it's greed, even though people don't see it that way. But like, you love money so much that you're willing to kill yourself and do stuff that you hate to go and get it, instead of coming out of that mindset and saying, what do I enjoy? Like,
right.
What do I want to do? What, like my son, he likes to do art, and I'm trying to push him, like, listen, do art. You can do art as a career later on, but
right.
keep that passion and do that. Like, my mom would have been like, you can't go into art. You need
By
to get
me,
another job. And it's like,
acting, they used to tell me that that was a competitive career and that I should find something that was going to be more stable, because I wanted to do acting. But now I remember everything that I was going to say from before.
Go continue.
The whole freaking point of what I was saying was that these generations of people prior to the digital age, like, that took a boom. Like, even my daughter, like, I think about this in the raising of my daughter. My daughter's Gen something. She's one of those other ones. 2001, right? She was born in 2001. And I admit, because of my upbringing, right? I fed into this digital era, this era of time, right? Where, because I grew up without, I never wanted her to feel that way. So when I say that my daughter had every gadget imaginable that you could think of from her generation, like she had it, everything. Like, so she's very gamer, like, she's very, like, she's the one, she's my tech. I'd be like, Olivia, anytime I have an issue with, I'd be like, come here. Like, she's the one, she's my tech person to, I don't know. And she always fixes it. She says she don't know, but she fixes it. I'm like, okay, thank you. You know what I mean? So what I feel
like you overcompensated.
And no, but it feeds into the labeling system of her generation being so digital aged, and how she can be okay with just staying home. Granted, kids at our time and stuff like that, you had kids that didn't like to go outside and all this kind of stuff, but the rarity of that, like, like, it was like that one kid, and then the rest of us, we were all outside. You get what I mean? Like, right. So now it's opposite. Like, there's a lot of kids that don't even have to leave their room, because they have such a world already that is like,
scares me.
Right? No, so they have this hope. But what I'm trying to say from before is that, so now this is the evolution of time with the development of what people are doing. But what never got healed still is the neglect or the trauma or this and that. So now the same cry that always existed, right, it has new outlets of its form of expression. So I just feel like the monkey see, monkey do. That's what we were talking about, that monkey brain, right? Development never got checked for individualism, for entertaining a thought that's outside of your thought and not accepting it as your own, and finding your truth within that truth of an evolution. Like, these kind of concepts of thought and ways of being have never been taught, because the conformity of life is what you're fed. The moment you come out the womb, you're told It's not you're not asked, and they're not saying, hey, we want you to think about this world that you're born into, that we have created. This is this and that, but hey, you're free to decide if this is what you want to be or do and have this. No, that's not the development that we've had in our decades of generations of time. It's you fit this mold, and if you don't, you're the issue, you're the problem, you're the one, and this and that. So there's a lot of those kind of different individuals that don't take what they're like me. I did not take the reality that I was in and accepted as my own, and I became the black sheep. I became the child. Like you were raised. We played together. My grandmother always spoke bad. Like, she don't listen. Nah, Matia. She's like telling the other adults like I'm a problem child. Like I don't like Matia, ungrateful, like, or and traitor to my family because I spoke about what happened behind closed doors, and you don't do that. You don't do those things. So, like, this comes from like trauma abuse kind of background, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to be trauma abuse background, because there's a lot of people that don't come from trauma abuse background, but still they come from desensitizing, conforming, trying to make their parents happy, trying to conform to what they've been told, and detached and nowhere in their truth, nowhere in. This is why people have midlife crisis, right? All of a sudden they're like, whoa,
this is not what I wanted. Why am
what
I
the fudge? And I'm a guy next. Oh my god, heart attack. Right? Like, you know what I mean? So now when I was talking about the spirituality, this world, so now I'm like paying attention, and this monkey see, monkey do. Like, every time I go to like a tarot reader's page that is a copycat in some kind of way, I hear the same thing that I heard from another reader. Like, you get like, it's the same language being told, and then now you have this like narcissistic kind of environment, because we're raised by a bunch of narcissistic tendencies and ways of tyranny of being. So even though you might think differently, move differently, whatever, we still have behavioral patterns and conditionings that if you're not conscious to and working on with intention, focus, purpose, to identify that which doesn't serve. And most people are not doing that. Most people, that's too much work. Whenever I speak in all my life, I've always been very solution based and very evolutionary. I will say that, and anybody that has ever known me knows this, like, period. Like, as much as they may not like me anymore, they think, oh, she thinks you're better than me now. Fuck you, right? Like, anything like that. It's always been like that. And since I've been in junior high school and high school, and I used to come up with ways to do things. Like, in junior high school, I used to tell my friends about self-hypnosis. I'm like, before you go to sleep, this is the best time for you to do it. I'm like, if there's something, so like the things that I would identify and I knew from my friends that they didn't feel good about, like, I would then make it about me so that they didn't feel bad that I was telling it about them. So like, let's say because I didn't feel pretty, right? I didn't feel pretty. This is a lot of girls. This is why you got this whole fucking world doing plastic surgery and everybody's looking like each other. And I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it because I can't. It's the evolution of science, and I love it. And I'm not saying, but just the misuse and the mishandling and the unhealed aspects of people doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Vanity.
Some of it is too, but it's distorted vanity. You have to understand that it's not always vanity, because it's insecurity. Because the vanity will come from your own leveling of confidence, and you won't need to fix nothing because I'm perfect as I am. That's and some people, I've been called when growing up because I appeared to be confident, conceited, and that shit used to rip me down. I'm not conceited. But that's the argument. And because I had fight in me, I never properly knew how to explain myself except to defend myself. And that is just as problematic. That's because I didn't know myself. Now that somebody call me conceited, I'm like, whatever. Like, it doesn't even phase. But all those years of, oh, you're so conceited. Oh, you think you're better than somebody. Oh, get off your high horse. Oh, this and that. Oh, you think you're perfect. No, I don't think any of those things. And that's projection. Yeah. That's how that person in my position, if they were me, would be viewing it. That's revelation. The fact that you can say, I'm conceited or I think I'm better than you is your perception of me in my position. That's how you would be looking at it. You would be thinking you're better than somebody.
Yeah, a thief thinks everyone steals.
Right. Or, things like that. So exactly.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. Projection. People be like, oh, that's a bad person. That's because you would be that way. Right. If you were that person. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's just revelation. People say, I like the quote, and I don't know if how accurate of the identifying person this is, but from where I read it one time, I think Johnny Depp said it. But again, they be putting quotes to celebrities. I'm like, y'all didn't say that. I heard that, like, that was way before you even time. You did not say that. You just rephrased it and made like, stop it. I used to read quotes growing up. Okay, stop it, right? But about that money doesn't, about money like being the root of all evil, and that people like, that they become evil, like, or whatever. He's like, no, money only brings out what you already are. It doesn't. It reveals who you already like are. Like I don't have the proper quote, but the whole purpose of the saying was like, it's not. You're not like it's not making you a monster. It's just revealing who you are. So like, and it's true. Like if you're a naturally generous person, when you were poor and you come across money and you're still going to be a generous person. But if you were greedy and like all this kind of stuff, by the time you come through with money and all this kind of stuff, you're still going to continue to be greedy, unless you have some evolution in you that causes you to have this immense gratitude. But that's a process, and that's a progress, and that's a mindset, and that's an evolution in itself. And if you weren't displaying that from way before, I highly doubt that when you come through with that money too, that you're going to be all everybody here. Nah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's something not so, like in finance is the same thing.
Right.
Like you could be poor, right? You could have really bad money habits. And in your mind, you're like, if I only had $1 million. No, if you had $1 million, you would still be buying booze. You would still be going out, spending recklessly, and you will be poor by the end of the year.
Right.
It just lengthens the time you have to act as yourself.
Right.
So that's why it's always mindset. It's always going to be people changing their minds.
Right. If you don't know how to use the little bit of money that you have now, you're not going to know how to use the lot of it either. A lot of it.
Yeah. A lot of
it. Mercury is still retrograde, but still, that's not an excuse. But yeah, so like the evolution too, like of all of the stuff that we do, like I just feel now the digital age boom, right, that has crescendoed, now spills over all these hangups and all these things that have been for decades building, because this is progression. That if there's one thing that I'm learning, even just from the timeline of the Jeffrey Dahmer, and this is just as a reference because I'm working this now, so I can like easily recall it, is that there was progression. He went on a 13-year killing spree. 13 years. And I even started thinking about it in the laws of energy, frequency, and vibration. For episode 3, we're on episode 3 for you and me, and I'm on episode 3 talking about it for Jeffrey Dahmer. And it made me think. I was driving the other day in between recording. I'm still recording episode 3, but like now part 2. I was driving and I was like, holy shit! This is the only way I can explain human stupidity. I really truly don't know. I said, but the buildup of the progression of him, right, before his first kill, there was a progression to that. He had fantasy of certain kind of things. He was already killing animals and dissecting and all this kind of stuff. There was a progression to that first kill. There was a buildup to that first kill. He didn't just wake up one day and just did that first kill. Like there was a progression, there was a process to his first kill. Hold on. Right, so there was a progression to that, right? But in episode 3, which is what I'm talking about now, and I'm not going to go into that or whatever, you see little clips of the buildup of this fantasy. So before he even killed this hitchhiker, up until that point, he was watching another jogger, and then he would go home and he would drink and get drunk, and because he wasn't too accepting about his homosexuality and all this kind of stuff, he would have these, he would be dancing on a chair and pretending somebody was there. And he'd be like, I can't do that. Stop. Like, no, right? So when I was driving, I'm like, oh my God. This is what they're talking about. Alchemy in your energy, frequency, vibration, imagination, play. You are conspiring with your universe to create the reality which you desire. So this man, for all these years, this buildup of his stuff, because some people be like, how can the serial killer be going on for so long? If you want to talk about it, energy, frequency, vibration,
it's in his mind already, yeah.
He was in his alchemy. There was nothing. See, we're messing up. Like, people be like, why? How come I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing and I don't get my manifestation fast enough, you know? And then they be like, oh, divine right timing. Divine right timing. Divine. No. It's because your alchemy is fucked up. Okay? Like, it's not divine right timing. Granted, like, you know, divine right timing with certain things, like if you're building a career and all this kind of stuff, you got to work towards, like, or whatever and stuff like that. But alchemy is alchemy. It's either you have the energy or you don't. So when you're working on manifestations and you're saying stuff that you want to create and stuff like that, if you're speaking affirmations and things that you're saying and you don't believe,
yeah, that's fake.
Where you're contradicting. And so the conspiring with your universe, the universe or however source, whatever created and all this kind of stuff, the one that's going to work with you doesn't even, you're sending out conflicting signals. That's why your manifestation is not coming into play. Him, right? So if you think about it, because I keep on, like, my dumbfounding, like, I'm like, what? How did these stupid people allow certain kind of things to take place when it was quite motherfudging apparent? And then I'm driving and I'm like, because Jeffrey Dahmer for all these years was in alignment with his energy, frequency, vibration about what he wanted to conspire and do. And so his universe was conspiring and working with him, which brought about the right. This is what everybody's talking about. Oh, it'll bring around the right circumstance, the right synergy, the right meetup. So his synergy brought him with the right officers that were going to be stupid to not do their jobs and all this kind of stuff, that it aligned him with his divine purpose of whatever he was doing. Like, I'm like, if you want to think about it like that, right? So don't sell me energy, frequency, vibrations like that, because then we got a lot to worry about here. Like, you know, like in terms of sadistic kind of natures and ways to be. But we have mostly a monkey brain society anyways, who's not in alignment like that, because he has a lot of consciousness. Like, he tried to go and get convicted through insanity plea, but they found him to be sane. And damn Skippy, if you hear him talk.
Yeah, if you hear him talk. Listen, to me, the manipulation, the way that he manipulated the conversations, he was like,
he didn't manipulate any conversation, I don't feel.
That takes, yeah, he was man manipulative, but it takes some type of intelligence to do that. That's why, to me, liars and thieves and people who could get away with stuff.
Wait, but you're talking about his interviews after he was caught, or are you talking about how he lured people in?
No, the way that, like, for example, like, I don't know how far you're in, but because I watched it with my daughter. You
saw all the series? You mean a Netflix series you're talking about? You saw it already?
Yeah, I think I'm in like 7 or 8.
No. I've only seen up to episode 3, so don't tell me nothing, because I'm covering it. I have to still see episodes. Don't spoil it for me, because I'm doing like real lifetime kind of things or whatever. But what I'm saying is, like, because I'm covering it and I'm also cross-referencing and finding out real information. So, like, you see, so it's like, we could talk about episode 1, right? Real quick. Episode 1, that the one that got away, right? The one that survived, right? So the misinformation. So I keep telling everybody too, don't factualize this Netflix series, because it's also fictionalized. Like, right. Don't do that. So I'm recapping every single episode, but also giving you truths that I find out there in the best way that I can. So episode 1, which really upset me when I learned this later, they have that guy depicted as homosexual. It's to feed their narrative. I want you to understand that the guy is not homosexual. If you go to his real court testimonies, right, and I linked it to that too, so that people can judge and see for themselves. It is something that is specifically, they're like, so you're not homo. He's like, I'm not homosexual. And the whole scenario scene, right? Because you got to understand the idea of this, because the officers that failed the system, that didn't do their job and all this kind of stuff, the whole excuse behind it is this homosexuality, this fear, and this black and white war and all this kind of stuff, because that's the narrative of distraction that you're feeding the people that are weakened by that distraction to continue to that fight, to not to ever get to a solution, because everybody wants to fight about that stupidity there. But in all actuality, what really happened there was people didn't do their fucking job, because had they did their job, that could have all been avoided and stuff like that. So if you want to make it a race war, you want to make it a this kind of war and all this kind of stuff, then you're just getting lost in the problem. Okay, that's no solution there, right? So this narrative of him being a homosexual feeds that narrative of why they weren't all so helpful and all, and it doesn't even freaking matter, because it does not matter of their sexual orientation, because when you take an oath to protect and to serve and to do that what you do, that's because you're putting your life on the line to do what you said you were supposed to do. So whether he was homosexual, whether he was a clown, or whether he was this or this and this and that, what they failed to do had nothing to do with homosexuality nor a black and white world and all this. They did not do their job. So that's
I would disagree. And the reason why I would disagree is because the reason they didn't do their job was because of the way they viewed homosexuality and AIDS and all of that.
Right. That's so the defense mode.
Minds, yeah.
But that's the defense mode that is irrelevant to the cause.
That's irrelevant, but
it's irrelevant because you're a police officer. I can say that. I can say I judged this, I assessed this, and I handled it poorly. But you were trained to uphold the law, protect and to serve. And you have, because here I go, when I say the cross-referencing of information, right? Cross-referencing of all this information. The episode 2, which pissed me off with the 14-year-old boy, right? That they sent him right back in. All that shit with that, he was an adult kind of stuff, no ID and all this kind of stuff. They did not do their job. I don't care about the stigma of anything. Your job is to do that which you did not do, and that's what you did not do. You did not do it. I don't care about what is out there, because you have, so now I'm cross-referencing real life information, right? And stuff like that. These officers, they were suspended, then they were fired, then they were reinstated and stuff like that, right? So, but if you hear their interviews or them speaking for their defense, one of the officers, and real time, like, and you can even check it in the Wikipedia and stuff like that, what took place, like for that 14-year-old scene, right? That 14-year-old boy scene, we see it in Netflix happen one particular way. But what really happened is that these 3 officers came along with a fire department ambulance, okay? A fire department ambulance came because what was reported, granted, they didn't get the call themselves, but they got what the call is about and what was reported. Okay, I don't care about homosexuality, and I don't care about this white and black kind of stuff. What was reported was that there was a boy, not a man, not an elder, a boy running out of Domner's apartment, bleeding from his ass. They didn't say that in the Netflix series, just his lobotomy stuff.
Yeah, along with he was bleeding.
They just said he was bleeding. They didn't say where. That the boy came out naked, looking like a boy. And if you look at the picture of the boy, if you go to a real life picture, the boy did not look past 12, 13, or 14 years old. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I don't care how grown a 12-year-old thinks they are and how much you know what a 12, 13, and 14-year-old looks like. Okay, so the report was, when this was being called in, that there was a boy running naked, bleeding out his ass, out his head, and looking like a zombie, looking hurt and on something, running from this man's place. He needs medical attention. That's why the ambulance came. So they didn't show that in the Netflix series because, you got people watching, they're not going to do their research. The ambulance people, I wrote it down today too because I'm on episode 3 because I want to look this up because they too should have been fucking fired. Because the ambulance that came is reported. You can find this in all of the stuff, right? Is reported to have said that boy needed medical attention. And the police officers said, go. So my argument now is the police officer is not a doctor or a medical professional, right? And the argument between the officers when they were defending themselves was saying, I was in agony. I did not send a 14-year-old boy back to the killer. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. And in the Netflix series, it didn't even show you that the ambulance was there and all this kind of stuff. And mind you, the whole entire time, too, with the Niecy Nash and all that kind of stuff, the nosy neighbor and all this stuff, what they didn't share in the Netflix series was she does recognize the boy, that he's a boy. No, check. He's a boy. I've seen this boy. He's from around here. He's from around here.
Yeah,
this is a boy.
She said that that her daughter saw him playing with dirt. It's like, what kind of man plays with the dirt? You know, like
right.
Playing with earthworms.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, all this misinformation that gets like left out and things like that, and then people side with some information, portions of information, then like semi information, like whatever. So I've been recapping, but trying to find out as much more information so that like we're trying to make sense of this, right? So when I was driving going back, I'm like, the only sense I can make of this is that the laws of the universe energy, frequency, vibration. Jeffrey Dahmer was the only one in alchemy with that which he desired, and he conspired with the universe to align for him these perfect little incidences that created stupidity in the mass environment around him that allowed him to carry on with his fucking sadistic twisted plans, because I cannot understand how that went down. And then when they're talking about, oh my God, had they just did their job, they didn't check the situation. They didn't assess the situation. How they did their job. That's it. Everybody can say everything else. I'm not going to get into that argument where everybody else is talking. They want to be in war. Those are unhealed aspects of themselves that are acting out a certain situation to make it a bigger situation. And then people feed off of that because they feel also an injustice from that kind of situation. Then it just becomes a stupid, like, again, I'm not trying to be insensitive to the war that is out there and all this kind of stuff, but the war that is out there is part of the problem. Like, everybody wants to keep arguing about the same fucking thing over and over and over again. You got to see past that. You got to look past that. You got to rise above that and be the solution. And the solution is not to continuously project when everybody's the fucking problem. Everybody. It's not just one, it's everybody. Everybody's failing because everybody's doing this monkey brain act of like whatever. The same thing I said with episode 1. That was a 45 apartment unit. And Niecy Nash was the only resident there complaining about it. Then when he finally gets arrested, all of a sudden you see all these neighbors, I know, it smelled here. And I was like, really? Because when this bitch was complaining every fucking day and reporting and talking her shit, most likely, and we go to the hood, because we know how the hood is. We are from New York, Brooklyn, Queens, whatever the case may be. When you live in like subsidized housings, affordable housings, or apartments that are like the projects, because that's what it kind of reminded me of. There was multiple apartments on each floor because it was a 45 apartment unit. When somebody's a nosy neighbor and that one person that talks about shit, oh, don't tell her nothing because she'll tell everybody your business and all. I'm sure that was Niecy Nash. I'm sure everybody was like, oh, that's that crazy lady, like, she always talking shit, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, she's being the instigator, the troublemaker, and all this kind of stuff. But then all of a sudden, when he gets arrested, everybody and their mother has something to fucking say. Nah, fuck you. You're the monster too. Because it's just the same thing, like abuse. How many women get beat, or men too? Like, I don't even want to say it's just a women-men thing or whatever, or these fights that people hear next door. They're a wall away. And nobody does nothing. They heard you get beat last night. Damn, you saw her fucking face and all this kind of stuff. How is that? How is it until he murders the chick? And then you're like, oh, I knew it. And then everybody has something to say. That's wrong. That's a sick environment. That makes me very sad. That makes me so sad. Like, I get so emotional about it because I'm like, what the fuck? So anyways, but that's just the way that is. So what was I saying about that? Because I got emotionally charged up.
I think it's just people, I don't know, people just don't care.
No, they care because everybody's complaining. But everybody's so like, Everybody's complaining. Everybody's like just so quick to point their finger about who's really wrong here. Like the name of the series is called Monster, but for me, I feel like everybody's a monster. Granted, he was a monster. At least he held himself accountable. Yo, like that's why I was asking you if it was when the interviews of him after being caught that you're referencing, or just the series depiction of him as a killer, because of course he has to be manipulative when he's luring in his victims. He has to lie, like, you know, he has to. So the truth about the situation with the first guy, the one that made it out alive, that they have him depicted as a homo fucking sexual, right? In real life, he, in his court testimony, he said he didn't come with no gay shit. He came that he was a photographer. Yeah. And that he paid people money to take nude photos. So he was aware that it was nude photos, but he was not just approaching him. He was approaching him and his friends, and all him and his friends were talking about just getting paid to take these photos and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but when the police came, that's what Jeffrey Dahmer was like. He's like, oh, that's my boyfriend. So in their minds, like my wife was saying, she was like, that's so messed up that they thought homosexuality was so disgusting that they were like, you know what, all right, just take him back into you.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what they thought. Your
of course
job,
it matters, because what they thought caused them to act the way
what they thought went against their job description. So for me, no, but it's not even about that. But that's what's wrong. Because look at it. Like, that's what's wrong. If you get hired at a company in a job and you keep fucking up, you get fired. You get fired. If you cannot put this information in the computer system for me, and every single time I go into the computer system, I'm reading another fucking language that I don't understand. No, you're not doing your job. Like, you're not capable. You're not equipped to do your job. So this is the argument. This is the defense that people came to for these officers and stuff like that because of the time. No, your duty is to uphold. Your duty is to protect and to serve. And your duty is to put your life on the line regardless of your thought. If you have thought, then go have another fucking job. Because your duty as a police officer is to protect. And so no matter the situation of what they thought, there was a hurt boy there that needed medical attention. And so now that I'm going to do my research about the ambulance, because they got sent away by the police officers and told that this was a domestic dispute between homosexuals. And then that also gets me into the alignment of just really understanding our butthurt community. So now I wasn't there. I don't know exactly the words that were said. And again, I know there are cops that can be assholes. And I know I've seen it, I've witnessed it, but I also witnessed great officers, you know, and we have family that are police officers too. And so I don't speak badly, or like, I don't have anything negative to speak of the general population of police officers. I can only speak for these individuals that we're referencing. So these are, when I say this about these cops, it's just about these particular cops. I'm not talking about the whole police department system.
That's how it's all about the individual.
Right? The individual, like, and they did not do their job. That's it. Like, it has nothing to do with that. And so then also, that's what I was gonna say. So I don't know, you know who Candace Owens is, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I use this as a reference because I heard her say something and she articulated something that really didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, wow, it's very much true how people can really pick apart what you say and be butthurt about the stuff that you say, and they can interpret it and it's wrong. So she was just talking about like the whole like Kim Kardashian and her mother with the Ray J thing and all this kind of stuff. And so she made her points about how she felt about it. And there was, you know, nothing wrong about how her opinion and all this kind of stuff. But she said one thing in a certain way that triggered somebody to attack her. So the thing that she had said was her mother had watched her daughter have sex out of wedlock. So that triggered someone who's not, because, you know, Candace Owens is a Christian woman or whatever, and is big on marriage and, you know, that kind of stuff, and doesn't, that's her lifestyle, that's her opinion, that's her truth, that's where she is, and she can say. But what bothered this person, not the message that she was saying, which was wow, listen to the message. That was a great message. Like what she was trying to imply, like, you know, whatever. You got upset with her because she had said sex out of wedlock. And it triggered her to be insulted by this woman, say, oh, get off, like you're like you're high whore, like you're Christian, like, you know, you think you're better than somebody that is having sex. So clearly this woman's having sex out of wedlock and she's bothered by the language chosen. So again, I wasn't there, but based off of the documentations, the writings and all this kind of stuff or whatever, and the complaint and all this kind of stuff, the language used, because even in the Netflix series, they said this is a domestic dispute with homosexuals. Also documented in the real life thing is that same language. Now, I can understand, because I see it in this world today, that if that was the language that was used, how easily somebody that doesn't like that you're saying that, and it could sound condescending, it can sound whatever, and you can intuitively pick up, like, why are you speaking to me like that for? Why are you saying it like that? And granted, but what other language of these officers are to use to explain their position right now? So I'm not, again, defending them at all of how they did, but I'm just saying how easily we can get into war about language because you don't like the tone I fucking said it in. We fight like this all the time. It's not that what you said, is how you said it, right? It's not what you said, is how you said it. So we don't know exactly word for word what took place and all this kind of stuff, but I can easily see how, because of how this world is, that maybe they didn't insult them the way that they made it seem that they insulted them. Maybe, just maybe, they were just using the only language that they can speak in their professionalism to excuse why they still didn't do their fucking job. So that's where I'm getting with my logic about how I can assess that situation, because I don't really think they were like, oh, you homosexuals and you're disgusting. Right. You know, I don't really think they were doing that. So, but the implication is that they were being prejudiced or this kind, because you want to make it about that instead of making it about they just didn't do their job. Because even so, we can say all of this, that, oh, they semi-did. They still didn't do their job, because you already know if there's a domestic dispute that goes on in any household, those police officers are to walk the premises. They look around. Anybody else here? I used to have domestic disputes come to my house growing up. Cops came to my house every day from my parents. They walk around your house. They take one of the parents to the other side. They're talking. And then let's not forget that this boy, and it doesn't even matter about language. They could have thought he was like, oh, he's a Laotian boy. Maybe he doesn't speak English. The boy's not speaking at all. At all. At all. At all. That's alarming. That, for me, why was he refused medical attention? So, you know, there's just too many things that I guess I would be harsher in a community of people that had to assess whether these officers get, like, I would be like, fuck no, nothing. They don't come back. They don't come back. They didn't do what they let them get dust. Don't even, like, that's no, like, period. Like, there was just so much that happened for me that doesn't excuse, because had they walked in and did their job and just coming, I know, because I've had police officers come to my house. They check the premises and make sure that that's part of it.
You seen those cops? They stepped in a few feet, or like.
But had they did that, that little boy would have been. They would have walked in and found a dead corpse in the bedroom.
Right.
So it's just, again, like, it doesn't. But everybody always has an excuse instead of accountability. So that was my thing. The point I was trying to make in those videos too, about accountability. I said they can call Jeffrey Dahmer a monster, but he had accountability. Granted, accountability for some sick, sadistic things, but he had accountability. And what that tells me as an evolutionist in thought, he more than the cop has the potential to evolve.
Yeah.
Right? So, like,
doesn't he like convert or something at the end of his life or something? He converts to some religion or something.
I don't know. I will travel that, I guess. I don't know. I haven't heard. He was bludgeoned to death. He was killed in prison in 1994. He didn't live too long. He was killed in prison. I heard something today about the guy who killed him and stuff like that. And well, I guess I'll talk about that in one of my episodes. I don't know, but but I was so like I didn't mean to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer again. Like it's like, but it's a good thing to talk about. But like it brings me back into the reality of like what I was saying about spirituality and like on YouTube and stuff like that. Like I see a lot of people, they like they're even talking about like spiritual glow ups. You ever hear people talk about spiritual
I got the answer, but I'll let you figure it out on your own.
Wow. No, I want to hear you. I've been talking too much. Go ahead.
No. It says that he had converted to Christianity 8 months before he got killed in jail.
Okay.
So that he has a conscience, that whole accountability thing. But it's true. That's why I feel like sometimes we have to see that there's more going on inside of people than people can assume. Because for me, like Jeffrey Dahmer, yes, I agree, he did all these crazy things, but there was a thought process in what he did. And as you go on, you start to see how he says it just became easy. Why you kept doing it? It was easy. Why was it easy? Because he just kept getting away with it because nobody did their job. So obviously, he's thinking about, all right, this is easy. I could just do this and nobody will do anything about it. So,
I haven't heard him say it was easy. He says that? Like I'm asking, like, or you, that's your recap of that.
I'll let you get there.
Okay, no, yeah, right. So good. Okay, you let me get there.
But yeah. I mean, that's not a big spoiler. No,
that's fine. I've been spoiling a lot of things too. So like don't worry about it.
Yeah, but that's what he says. They asked him, like, why are you doing this? And he's like, it's easy.
Right. It just became easy. Right. I would assume because you guys made it easy. And then
exactly.
Because even in episode 2, like when they were talking about had they just did their job, 5 other people wouldn't have died. But now we go to episode 3, his first kill, and I'm like, had those officers did their job, you could have saved 17 other people's lives.
Exactly.
So it's just like, again, energy, frequency, vibration. Did he manifest his successful kills? We want to talk about it and those kind of things because people say thoughts become things, but do they? Because thoughts could become things, but they have to be fueled, and so that's also feeling. So your feelings have to align with your thoughts too in order for them to become things, and that's just like that's where a lot of people have conflict, because your mind can say, I believe in the possibility of this potential of this great future, but then your reality has been different, which causes your heart of how you feel to feel differently about how that you think, and there's conflict. So if there's conflict in that resolution within your whole energy, how can your energy match that? It doesn't. It makes no sense. So that's why, when people will be like, I do my affirmations, I do my prayers, I'm like, whew.
Good for you.
No, not even good for you. Because if you're doing your so it's like me, like I'm not knocking prayer and I'm not knocking affirmations. They're important to do. They're important to say.
Yeah, then you gotta take the actions. No, bro, let me tell you, because I was in a lot of religious groups, and we will have people that want you to pray for the pain in their arm. Just ask God for him to remove the pain in my arm. Oh, yesterday, my nephew broke his leg. Let's just pray that he gets healed. Yeah, he's gonna get healed. I mean, that's what the body does. But you know what I mean? Like, or I have people who say, pray that God gives me this job. What job? What job? Are you actively going out and looking for jobs, or are you just praying and asking the universe to give you a job? And it's like, bro, you gotta go and actively.
Right, you have to actively but my other, when I was little, my annoyance, because even though we raised Catholic and I had to do all my Catholicism duties and stuff, my dad, he was very liberal with me, and because I've always had a quest for finding God and spirituality because of my own spiritual experiences in life, I don't know life without spirit. I've been having spiritual experiences since I could remember. So for me, that world is real. And so, but my connection with the church was not. So my development of that, I was grateful that he allowed me to visit different denominations and explore, and I used to do a lot of different readings. I even at one point when I was in college, I took the history of religion because, you know, like it was just, you know, I like this kind of stuff or whatever. And when I was little, my sarcasm, which could appear devilish, I guess, was why do you keep praying for the same things over and over? Did you not believe yourself the first time? So as a kid, like, you know, it's like, what did you just say? Where's your faith? No, where's your faith? Because I know that in faith, true faith, I understood this from a child. From true faith comes that one prayer, affirmation thing. Granted, if you want to keep affirming it, that's me later on learning the affirming part. Like, even though, you know, you can repeat or you can say it, it's just because sometimes your behavioral pattern and conditioning can have you operating different. So you're just setting a new pattern for yourself. So you're trying to be consistent with that line of thought. So like if you're transforming an old thought way and you're implementing a new way with the science of your own understanding, that you have that faith, you know the truth. But a lot of people are so empty in their faith that they keep crying, like it's like crying over the same thing over and over. Help me heal my heart, or like, and I'm not being insensitive and I'm not whatever, and they're like, you know, over and over and over the same thing. I believe. You don't believe you can fly. I'm sorry, because reality keeps telling you that you can't fly. And so you keep saying the same thing over and over again, contradicting that is your truth. How about let's get to the solution of what you really believe to be truth? So that way, when you say what you say, you actually, it can, the energy, the frequency, vibration can match that what you say with how you feel, with what you think. Right now, you're saying an empty fucking prayer that does not match how you feel. And you keep on praying over the same prayer, saying the same curse, saying the same thing with the same vibration, with the same energy that you had previously before, because you put no depth into that, what you say. Like, it's just like the spiritual people on YouTube, what I'm saying about the depth. Like, and I'm not better than anybody. I'm not saying this, but the way that I speak, they're really, oh, she thinks she's better than me. Whatever, butt hurt feelings. Okay. That's your butt hurt feelings. Okay. I understand. I get triggered too sometimes, but like, whatever, like it is what it is. Heal through that, feel through that, deal with that. Right. Yeah. But like, how this world now, like so superficial, like I hear tarot readers and people talking about we're the chosen ones, like bringing that 144,000 and we're the ones in this oppression. So it's like all doctrinated again into this kind of spirituality. And then
that book of Revelation, man,
you might be experiencing a glow up, right? So you think it's my cat Andromeda. Hold on, she wants to go in my daughter's room. Let me just let her in because then she's gonna keep on screaming. Come on, go. Okay. So yeah, so these glow ups that a lot of these superficial readers, because anybody can learn how to read the tarot cards, right? You can learn how to read it. You can learn how to read the tarot cards. Like, I'm again not comparing and contrasting. I learned how to read the tarot cards like on my own, like from little, like, you know what I mean? Like when I said that I started playing with cards and card tricks and the cards just spoke to me differently, and then I started self-interpreting, and then later on I got into the tarot meanings and all this kind of stuff. But I realize now from back then I was intuitively receiving, obviously, because, you know, I've been reading cards for whatever. Anyways, that's just a tool. Anyways, it's not everything. So but when you go into these things, they're like, yeah, you're looking different. So they're incorporating even plastic surgery with a glow up and these kind of things. Like, oh, if you're getting work done, you know, like all this kind of, I'm like, what in the world does evolution and growth and glow ups have to do with your actual Like, granted, when you're in alchemy and alignment, it doesn't matter what you look like and you're glowing with your energy, you glow different. You do glow different. But the glowing different, and for some of these readers too, like some of them did get work done, or some of them do get work done, and they do. And I'm not knocking the industry and all this kind of stuff or whatever too, but that shit got nothing to. So I'm getting like, like now that I'm tapping in and poking my nose here and there, I'm like, talking about?
That's knowledge in the hands of immature people. To me, that's what it is.
What the fudge does your spiritual evolution got to do with your physicalities? Nothing. Because most of the time when you're going through a whole big spiritual awakening, you look like shit. Like Einstein, I say. I'm going through a real big, like, granted, I put my braids on and all this kind of stuff, but you should have seen me when I woke up. Like, no, that's like, and granted, like whatever the case may be, but it's just so much like superficiality. And then now I'm noticing like major celebrities using the language of a lot of this awakened spirituality now. And that they're just now, so you're making even these words more now empty and lacking thereof in meaning, because now you're saying it so floozy, like divine. You know how many I'm not gonna name names and all this kind of stuff, but certain people that we talked about every single day, like, because now I'm listening and stuff like that, they're using these languages. And granted, I'm not knocking anybody on their evolution and stuff like that, but it's just so vain and it's just so superficial that it's like, we can it's like, what do you do?
I compare that to like I was saying, like knowledge and understanding. You can know something, but when you know it, you're not ready to go teach it because you don't understand it. So some people hear these words like maturity. Some people think they're mature because they have a job and pay bills now. No, that does not make you mature. Mm-hmm. That's not maturity. Maturity is ascending into a higher realm of understanding. I don't know, people call it different things, being one or having a bird's eye view of the world and understanding where you fit in and how you affect things, all of that's all spiritual growth, right? It has nothing to do with you not getting a job or look, I take care of my kids now. You mean you do your job as a parent? That doesn't mean you're mature, right? Maturity is teaching your kids that deep understanding of life so that they can now grow. So
when you say the word maturity, are you saying it like with wisdom?
Yeah,
because maturity and wisdom I don't find to be two of the same things.
Wisdom is part of maturity, I guess, because wisdom is wisdom comes after understanding, right? Because first you have knowledge.
I have a new take on wisdom. But go ahead, I'm listening to like.
Good. What is
no, it? I've been saying this over and over. Like it came to me, like, and I like it, and I've been meditating on it and letting it further expand in me, which is it's just like it goes with the saying, like you could know a lot of things. Is what you do with it, right? So not wisdom is applied knowledge.
Yes.
So you can have as much knowledge as you have in the world. You can know a lot of things, but if you do nothing with that, what's good your knowledge, right? So it's applied. So I find wisdom to be the act of applying knowledge, right? That you attain and stuff like that. So, people, I understand now the argument or the like, I used to get defensive when, right? Because, you have a lot of, I don't like to look at people's age and determine their wisdom, because sometimes because my daughter, we have our children too, like my daughter has humbled me with her wisdom, even from a small child, right? Like, and it also taught me the value of souls. Like, we are souls having a human experience. So we come with our own evolution that is deeper beyond these bodies and stuff like that. And we can see it. So as a small child, even for me, I think about it. I used to say all the adults came to me, like as much shit as I was spoken about or this and that. I was like every important adult person in my life's therapist in some kind of way, right? Because children sometimes have this wisdom that they speak, like, oh my God, you're such a child. I can't believe I just told this child. I cannot tell you how many adults I heard say to me as a child growing up, I can't believe I just told you that, right? But you think about your path, that's part of my path. Like, you know, granted, I didn't know the worth, the value of it. And I learned that now in my 30s, 40s, right? Like, you know, where it's like, wow, treasure chest, girl, like let that evolution of healing allow you to accept that path you've been on. Like, even if it's been denied or you didn't see and all this kind of stuff, like there's wisdom in how we speak. So I don't really like to so my defense when I would say something that counteracted something in adult, they'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about, and time is only experience. You're too young to know. Like, you know how like when parents like would tell us that. So I don't like to operate off of that and stuff. But now that I am older, right? And I see some of the youth, right? And again, like, you know, like, or like when I'm talking about these youngins with their spirituality and stuff like that, or you know, and we have our older generations that look at us still like youngins, and because of how we look, you look like a kid, Gabby, right? Like some people still, like I have adults from our youth that are older now asking me for a reminder of how old I am, to remind them how old they are, because they can't believe, because they're still looking at me, they're like, you still look like you were a kid, like, right? When they look at you, they're like, how old are you now? Like, oh my God, like I'm 40. I'm not the 12-year-old anymore. I'm 40. What? Like, stop. And it's like, oh my God, like, okay, right? So we have these kind of things going on and stuff like that. But there are wisdoms that are learned, hopefully, you know, that's what we hope to obtain, that only time can give you. And that's going to come with age. Like, you know, so there are certain things, like, it's just like when I'm helping my daughter, like, and then we're talking and we're developing, she's, you know, 21 and all this kind of stuff. And granted, we want them to make their own wise decisions and choose for themselves and stuff like that. And we can only speak from our own experience and stuff like that. But I'm also big on, I don't want my experience to be yours. I want you to experience your life for yourself. So like, I have to find ways to convey that, which if something comes up where it's not me imposing my experience onto her based off of, like, you know, so it's finding a new avenue of street of articulation. So I'm very conscious of these things because I don't want the same development of control system base, right? The behavioral patterns and conditionings to do. So I've been always very conscious of this since I've raised her. So this is 21 years of experience, right? Of me being intentional that way with the upbringing of my daughter. And I see the benefit of that, like, you know, but that was only as time can tell me these things, because the development of that and the development of our relationship and what we have now has gone through every test of time. And also I got a lot of flack from like my family and stuff like that of the way that I was raising my daughter, that they talked so much shit because I didn't want to also raise her. This is something I was very conscious of too, with control tactics, fear tactics, threatening tactics. You know how, give me that, I'm gonna take away your toy and you're not gonna get, like, those threats and all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't believe in that. And granted, I don't have the answer to the proper way, but I know that I'm not gonna do it that way. Right. So when, you know, as adolescent children and the way that she would speak, I'm raising her to be free to speak. But, you know, like, that comes with a double-edged sword too. So like when she would sometimes say or go against something that they would say, she was never disrespectful in any kind of way to the family, but to them it was. And it made me go back in time to really fix this alignment, because my, like say if Olivia said no, right? And my dad goes in on her, let's say, or whatever the case may be, and I come in now, mama bear, right? Like, what's the problem here? Like, you know, here, well, you got to tell her to be more respectful. That would be the response. Well, can you tell me what she said that was disrespectful? Oh, she said, so this is me now, you know, weighing out the scales, like, okay, here. And the majority of the time, there was nothing wrong with the situation. It was just the perception of the old school generation and reality, right? So I have always been headstrong in how you're going to talk to my child with my family because of my upbringing.
No, so, I was the same, yeah.
Right. So I fixed it, I adjusted and all this kind of stuff. And they were like, I'm telling you, for the first like 10 years or so of me raising my daughter, like they were like, she's gonna walk all over you. You don't know what you're doing. And like I heard it because I'm doing something different. I'm not doing it the traditional way. Oh, and also with the Catholicism. Oh, you're not gonna send her to CCD. She doesn't want to.
Right. Yeah. I got the same thing. You're not gonna baptize him? Why? Why would
I did baptize her. And I did that to comply, because at that time I was still complying, and because her father, that was his tradition too. And so I just did that, but I didn't think forward ahead, like, like what I was going to do later on. And it was just, okay, we'll just do the baptism, like, like whatever. So, and I didn't mind that. I wanted to take the pictures, the pretty dress. And like, that was why I did it. I did it for superficial reasons, and to like, so it didn't bother me. I didn't feel like, I did that to comply. Like, I don't feel like that. Like, but when it came time for the Catholicism thing, like, I had already well educated her about what that was. I said, we've all had to do it. I don't want you to feel left out. Like you didn't, like I didn't let you do it or something like that. Like if you want to do it, we'll do it. Like if you want to take these classes and do all these things and be just like, have these pictures the way that I have, my sister has, all the cousins have, and all this. If you're okay, like if that's what you want, and then fine, we'll do it. And she's like, Mom, no. Like, like
yeah, kids.
No.
I don't.
She was like, no. And I'm like, okay. And so I support you and stuff. So that was also another thing, like, like, oh, I can't believe, like, whatever. And now the very same people that were talking so much shit, that gave me such a hard time. And this is, again, only time can reveal this to you, right? And time revealed this to them. Now they see the quality of our relationship, and that's something you can't fabricate. That's something you can't, we don't make this up. Like it's an energy. You feel this shit. You see this shit. You see how we ride. You see how we are. You see like what it is. And you can go back in time and you can see all the shit you gave me for how you thought I was doing something. So if they're really reflective upon that, they could be like, wow, we were like, a little bit wrong in that department and all this kind of stuff. And now they're like, oh my God, it's so amazing. And then people like, like her age and friends and all this, they're like, I wish my mom and me were like, like, or whatever. And it's not to idolize or anything like that. Trust me, it's a double-edged sword. I didn't have it wasn't easy, but it's me taking the role as a caretaker, the provider, the nurturer, the mother, the father, and even in my own confusion or not knowing how to do what to do, I knew what I wasn't doing, and I knew how I wanted to do it. So love was moving my vessel, like, and for me, that was learning what that was. So because I didn't know what that was and I didn't know what it looked like, it forced me to have to be conscious during these moments of trivia of how I want to pursue moving forward. So it was a learning experience, all of it is a learning experience. And so I just, in my understanding of this development of process that can be progress, there's a lot of right about that statement that maybe I was bothered by when adults would be like, you won't know until you go or have that experience and stuff like that in order. And I'm like, no, because, in my mind, I'm thinking wisdom rides the wave, and that's just wrong. Like, that it's easy to say, like, oh, that's just, we have this simple solution in that kind of way. But, time is revealer of many kind of things, like about how it's going to be. So you have a lot of people starting to evolve, awaken, and they think they know everything. And so they're just saying that knowledge. And I'm like, whoa, that can change too. Why are you selling everything about where you're at as true? Because that's how they're selling it. Like, see, like when I speak and I say, and I'm not saying I'm perfect in any kind of way or anything like that. I can only speak from my experience. You'll be like, oh, you're so like, because you're always talking about yourself. No, I can only speak from my experience to be able to convey the story that I'm trying to say. It's not that I'm trying to talk about myself. It's okay. But there's a lot of like immaturity, I guess is the word that we're looking for.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like immaturity, like premature ejaculation or something. I don't know. Like they're just like spitting it out and speaking it
Well,
matter of factly.
it's kind of like when you learn something new and you just want to go tell everybody about what you just learned. It's like, wait, you need to understand what you know first, and so you need to have some type of experience with this knowledge, so that then you could be better equipped with wisdom to then go and tell people, look, this fire is hot. You could tell your kids, hey, that fire is hot. You don't know it's hot until you've touched the fire. So until you touch the fire, you can't tell your kids, like this is hot. But, that's just an example. But.
Yeah, I know. I like that. It was fine. It was a fine example. But I would think that, well, I guess, because I go like deep and I'm like, well, how do you know that the fire is not hot if fire makes things hot? But I guess if the first encounter with fire, you would have to have touched it to know that it was hot, like in order to make sense of, oh wow, this big bright orange fiery thing burns. Like, and it's like
that's something that
but I would also think that the engulfing of the flame and you feel the heat in every kind of way should let you know that the shit's gonna be hot.
But you have to.
That was where my mind went. I don't need to experience how hot that shit felt from 5 feet away. Like, that shit is hot. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, because I had a conversation with my mom, I don't know, a long time ago. But
I love your mom.
I was resentful to her, right? I was resentful for some time because I was like, damn, Ma, you told me not to do things, but you never explained to me why. Right. So I ended up going to go do them anyway. Right. And I find like that, to me, that helped my kids, right? Because my kids, I'm sure you see your daughter as more mature than some adults. And my children are the same way. Like, they're a lot more mature than a lot of adults. And that's just because I had a different perspective in raising them. Right. Just like you, I didn't raise my kids how my mother raised me and my grandmother.
Just do what I say, not as I do. I don't care.
Right. I would explain to them, like, listen, this is why, this is what's gonna happen. Like even the most recent conversation I have about sex. I'm like, look, this is what sex is like. It feels really good.
How old are they?
14 and 17.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then
they're big enough. They know what sex is, and it's either you showing them and talking about
sex. I've been teaching them about sex since they were 4 or 5, about the anatomy. Nobody touches. This is whatever.
I got my daughter when she was young. This STD book, and it had all these like graphic pictures, and I'm like, this is what sex. I just get like, I didn't do it fully like that, but like I'm just very vocal about a lot of stuff. And anyways, like, yeah, but
you know what I also think that comes down to like how our parents and grandparents viewed school. I feel like they wanted to just be parents, but really when you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a provider, you're a protector, you're all of these things. And I feel like they strayed away from the teaching aspect of parenting, and it was more like, just don't do that. Why am I not doing that?
Because that was from their generation. They were told what to do and they complied. So for me, I feel like they're like the generation of the rebels being born, who then gave birth to rebels in form, and then the rebels in form gave birth to the new age reform, something like that, for the ones that were doing that. For the ones that were just robotic and cyclical, and they're just like, what is it? I heard of I'm learning all these like terminologies, but it makes sense to me when I heard it. Non players, like when they say that there's just people like exist.
Oh, NPCs.
What is that?
A non-player character.
Right. Yes, that. And the only reason why I even understood that terminology when I heard it is because for a long time I was trying to explain that. Like how I said like that never doubt where soul talk can happen from. Right, because I started to see like and the movie that helped me to better meditate on it was a Denzel Washington movie. I don't know the name of it right now, but it was where a soul was haunting him and traveling from different bodies and stuff like that, and we're like freaking him out, like the the jump, it would jump from another body, like it was like antagonizing him in some kind of way, like a spirit, like a benevolent spirit of some sort, of somebody. I don't know. Again,
was it fallen?
Maybe. And did it jump from person to person?
Was it with John Goodman as well?
I don't know names. I just know Denzel Washington right now.
I think it's this one.
Right. So this movie, the concept of that, right? The concept of
oh yes, this is the one. I've seen this movie. Yeah.
Of another entity using human form, other human vessels to convey or speak or travel through, like a traveling spirit in some kind of way. And so for me, when I was little, and I would call it soul talk. I didn't know. So that's why when it says NPC, we're non-participating, like, so there, and for me, the lesson came with people, because I speak to everybody the same. Like I don't care who you are, who, and all this kind of stuff, title, this, that. I speak to everybody the same. I start off speaking to everybody the same. Let's say that. I start off speaking to everybody the same. I don't care, right? And I've proven this time and time again in my life. I've met many kind of varieties of people that you would think, oh my God, you met that, and I speak to them the same, right? But anyways, I get dramatic. I'm sorry. What was I saying? I don't even know. Anyways.
Yeah, you speak to everybody the same. The
NPC, right. But from little, right. And so I've always, people, like even friends that I've had from, they'd be like, you make friends with the weirdest of people, or like people that typically wouldn't talk to a certain kind of like I do. And so even people that are not as intelligent too, right? Because, or whatever, and I'll have conversations with people, and it'll be in these conversations with people that something will happen. Like I would receive a message that they would say. It's like, you know how they say angels come in every kind of way. And I
was just gonna say that there's a scripture that says treat everybody hospitably, because you never know when you entertain an angel, which is a messenger, right?
Right. And so I started to notice that. But I thought, in the development of this is me growing in my understanding of what is happening here. When it happened, I believed that person to be aware of it. Right? So I gave more credit to the vessel for conveying that, and associate, and for a while I did associate the message with the person,
with the person's maturity to understand that message,
right. But then when I started growing in that, because I guess things must have happened after that caused me to say, wait, did they even know what they said? Like, you know, when I'm like, they don't, I don't know how much was happening. I'm like, who was I talking to? So then I started to look for signs. Like, what physical, what can I see that's different right here, that's happening here when it would happen? And so I started associating it with a twinkle I would see in somebody's eye. And it's funny because that's how I saw it. Again, you could be looking at this person and not see the twinkle that I'm talking about. You get what I mean? Because you have to learn. But I started to notice that this twinkle in somebody's eye would come, and then ba-dong, like, you know, like, and I'm like, it was in the twinkle. But then I would also start seeing the twinkle go. So I'm like, okay, right? And then this movie, whenever that movie chorus happened, like, I'm like, also, you know, I believe like something, like, again, without much understanding and like whatever the case may be. And then realizing, and then I would always say that there's just energies in this world that exist to fill, because they that, and we might look at it and say, oh, that's a soulless entity, or that's a person, whatever, but that's maybe just where they are in their evolution, right? Because if we think about the evolution of all in the whole and us as we are, then we have to be everything in order to be one. So there's going to be different phases and stages that we each are in our evolution that we're going to be. Like, so sometimes I say the way to identify what you resonate with is whatever, like, you know, you resonate with, that you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel connected to that. Then maybe that's something that has been part of your evolution already, that you have experienced, like, you know, like whatever and stuff like that. But like, I see it with some animals, like even my neighbor's dog, right? My neighbor's dog, I call him a Sims character dog. He's like, why do you call my dog a Sims character dog? And I'm like, because he activates only when people enter the room. I said, because I don't know, I raise hyper things. And so, you know, and I'm a ninja too in my own way. So even though I'm raised in a household of animals too, so I've learned how to sneak out of a house with barking dogs that don't bark, like, you know, so I can move around, and I sometimes like to see what the animals are doing if nobody's around, like, you know, so I can sneak up on an animal too, like they sneak up on you and I sneak up. So for me, I kept noticing that anytime you catch this dog on his own, he's just sitting either staring blankly or sleeping. And I'm just like, I'm like, he's not even active when the doors are closed and nobody's like, whatever. And so it made me laugh, because I'm like, it's like that with people too. Like, there's just people like when they do like how you said, the cycling, like they're just a repetitive life, robotic lifestyle, and they're content with, like, you know, whatever, and
there's
they're not
thought. There's no thought as to like,
right. And it's just condition and view. Like, we can argue and say, wake up, you, but maybe that's their position too.
It is.
Right.
I learned that too. Like,
right,
you can't save everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. No, and it's not to save anybody. It's to evolve yourself, right. And in that, you know, evolution occurs and stuff like that. But I find that to be like really interesting. That it's like that. Like you never know what vessels are being used.
Right.
And the more, and then I found that I'm not yet ready to articulate, but I'll get there eventually, just from my own childhood experiences, that I've been exploring something more like in depth, like to understand my own development and process of stuff. I do understand that the more lacking in consciousness that you may have, which is many of the world, if you're not thinking for yourself and you're in the monkey brain, then you're lacking in consciousness, period. Like, I'm not going to argue with somebody that thinks any differently than that. No, that's not true. Okay, for you. I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm going to say that like if you're not evolutionary, you're part of the monkey brain kind of thing. Like, and if you're not thinking for yourself and all this kind of stuff or whatever. So, you know how when people talk spiritual warfare and how vessels could be used, it's because you lack in consciousness, like the ability to not allow for another energy, entity, spirit to come in. And granted, I'm not talking about channeling. I'm not talking about mediumship, because I have my exploration with all of these realms too. I'm not speaking about that when you're channeling and you're receiving and all this kind of stuff, which, oh my God, if you listen on the internet now, everybody's channeling.
Every thought and every idea. I'm telling you.
Do you even know the hierarchy system of your labyrinth mind, and the higher self, lower self, and this self, and all these kind of other things that come up? I was downloading, and they were also fishing the fucking internet, copying off everybody else, and these are their downloads. Like, I don't get me started.
That's why those are people who just repeat words that they hear, and that's how sometimes you can relate. Like, you can get a message from them. They have no idea what they're talking about, but it makes sense to you because you have the understanding of the deeper meaning of what they're saying. But most of the times,
but let me wait. We're pausing because I have to answer this call. 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know where we are.
No, you were saying how everybody says that they're channeling and they don't even understand what they're doing.
Right. And again, I'm not thinking I'm
You're
better.
not knocking them. Yeah, it's just you giving an account. That's just what it is.
Right. Like there's so many different levelings of understanding, even that. Like my channeling experience comes from my writing. So as a small child, I was fascinated with what I wrote because I didn't understand it. I was like, who wrote this? And I was also fascinated with my numerous handwriting styles, right? Like, because I am a writer before speaker and all this kind of stuff. So I've explored this for a very long time, and it's helped me to understand, because I wanted to know where was this flow coming from, and just how, like, when I get into poetic flow and I start talking real, like, channeling is without thought. It's, you are a vessel, a conduit for divine, whatever that is, messages that are filtering through your clear system. Clear. And so, and then in understanding my own development of life and my 25, 30 plus years of fasting, I am a lifestylist, a faster. Like I fast. This is not something.
What, every day?
I now in my life, I fast anywhere from one to 3, 4, 5 times a week at different. It doesn't have to be a whole day fast. Like it's just certain things. But for me, it's important because I do a lot of readings and I do a lot of channeling. So whenever I'm booked sessions and stuff like that, I don't eat. I fast. I'm a clear conduit. I don't want any obstruction for whatever is being delivered. So if I know I have a lineup of readings to do in the morning into the afternoon, I have already began from the previous night my whole fasting ritual, and then after I'm like, I'm famished, I need to eat something, and so it's different reasons and stuff. But I started it in junior high school because my childhood best friend, we were doing Catholicism. We lived right across the street from each other and stuff like that. And we were going to CCD classes together too. But she too was interested in other denominations too. So she converted into, she up until she finished all her Catholicism, because she had to, her family, she had to, but they also allowed her to go to other denominations. In junior high school, she found her love for the Pentecostal church. And so till this day, she's still that religion. So even though she finished all her Catholicism and stuff, after she did her duties as a Catholic child, like, like whatever, she then converted and got baptized into that Pentecostal thing. So in junior high school, I went with her. We got on the bus, like, how they go on the bus and they would go to the church and all this kind of stuff. I used to visit her denomination a lot too. And that's where I got introduced to fasting. And since then, without understanding my involvement with it, and that this was going to be something that I did throughout my entire life, I understand better now why I was early on introduced to it, because it needed to be a part of my life, especially for the type of things that happen for me. So like, so I do it without thought sometimes too. Like it just happens naturally. I'm like, oh, okay, it's a fasting kind of day, like, like whatever, and it comes. And so, so consistently throughout, I have silently, it wasn't something too that I was very vocal about. Like I just, I'm like, I'm not eating now. Like I didn't have to explain what I was doing to people, because at certain different parts too, for me, it was just prayer, like a different kind of prayer that I had within my own. I get emotional, like again, but like within me. So I didn't understand why I felt so compelled to continue to do it, but I did. And so I'm very grateful for it, because it has contributed a lot to my discipline in certain kind of things too. And understanding the difference of being clear and not clear, because I've had both.
Right.
I've had both of the experiences, and I'm like, wow, it does feel better this way. Like you don't want to be this way and that, like, so whatever. So I do it consistently, and it's very beneficial. But what was the whole point of that?
I don't know, but
I don't know either where that's
one time I started fasting when I went into the Pentecostal church too.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I fasted for like 3 days, and I was like, oh my God, God gave me the power to do this, right? But later on, once I came out of it, I realized like there are benefits to actually fasting.
Yeah.
Because when you fast for 24 hours or more, you actually reset your immune system and your lymphatic system. So
and you allow for a natural detox to occur too.
And it's funny, right? Because I break down the scriptures. Like I look at the spiritual meaning of things. So there's a scripture in the Old Testament, right, where it says, it's crazy because it says you think God wants you to fast and that you give up physical things, but he says the reality is the true nature of fasting is basically cleansing yourself of evil, of the impurities, right?
That too.
So the true fast is really a mental game where you go into your mind and you start kind of comparing, the whatever negative thoughts to positive thoughts and trying to get rid of the negativity in your life. But it's crazy because physically it does the same thing.
Yeah.
But God or the universe or whatever you want to call it uses physical creation as a metaphor for the kingdom within us.
Yeah.
So fasting was something that I was stuck on as not a doctrine, but like I wanted to understand it so much. Like I studied fasting in the Bible for like months and months and months.
That's interesting.
And you come to really understand, like in Catholicism, they fast for 40 days. You have to. They make you do it. But are you really,
I've never done that.
Are you right?
No, I'm saying I've never fasted 40 days. I've had my lifestyle of fasting, but I've never fasted 40 days straight. I've never done that.
It's not giving up food. You give up the one thing you desire. So people give up rice, they give up smoke.
Let's speak about that too. Just quickly, even before you say that, I'm just gonna add this. I fast more than just food too. I fast
water and liquids,
well, I try to stay hydrated just for healthy purposes. Like if I'm fasting, doesn't mean when I'm full fasting, that's nothing, right? But like, let's say if I'm just like fasting, I at least still drink my water. Like for certain kind, it depends. Like, like because I'm also very physically active, so I have to be mindful of that because I teach yoga and I do body work and stuff like that. I actually use my physical body on a daily basis. So there's just certain things like, so I find my median in certain kind of things or whatever. But there are things that I fast, like even like social media stuff, like things that you find yourself preoccupied with. Like if you ever smoked weed before, like, you might fast those kind of things. Or like like things that typically would be harder for you to let go of, like you said. So I like that you said that too, but I'm saying my lifestyle is I do fast, and it has to do with food.
I fast every day. I a little bit 8 hours and I don't eat for 16 or more.
Right. I usually fast my first half of the mornings kind of stuff too, because that's usually where I'm doing, like where I have my availability for like readings and things like that too. So the first half of my day might go with the fasting, and then I'll like, like if I do like whatever, and it's just, mindfulness of it too, like habitual too. Like for me, I just feel like it's a lot of habit and clearing. And since I understand it better for myself now through the experience, in the beginning part, granted, I was doing it because it was I wanted to experience and we were having like, I wanted to have a spiritual experience too, more so in a different kind of way. And so like I was following how it was being shown to me. But after I left all of that, and let's say high school, college, and we're no longer childhood friends, and I don't have that kind of like influence and stuff like that. It was just something that really was powerfully impactful for me, like in terms of because of but now I understand it from an energy perspective of empathy and just how much I take in, and I wasn't releasing. So, and because of my sensitivities to the energies around me, I take in a lot of stuff. And at that time I wasn't educated enough to know how to release. This is why I was a troubled child in terms of short fuse, anger, fighting all the time, or things like that, because I didn't know how to channel that extra energy that I was trapping in my being and expression, like, all this kind of stuff. So when fasting came in and stuff, it started to help my behavior. Now, mind you, I'm not
I'm gonna share something with you once you're done.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, I understand this now as I go through my timeline. Now I can see how my behavioral patterns started to begin to change because I was clearing my system.
It's like a correction, right?
Right. And mind you, I'm not thinking that this is why this is happening. I'm thinking, this is evolution of me too. So, it's just falling in suit. So like that anger that I was carrying and all of a sudden not being so fighter, combative and all this kind of stuff. I can guarantee that fasting had a lot to do with my rage, my and then also my ability to channel in every kind of way, because I was always automatic writer, and things like that too, and then also still being in the environment that I was. But go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
No, so going with the fasting, right, and how I used to study it, right? So you know the significance of the number 40 in the Bible?
Well, it says that usually when you get past, if you can get 40 days, because right now me and Olivia are doing 40 days of fasting of spending money outside of essentials. So right now we're doing a 40-day money fast of we're not spending money stupidly. Right now, it's not even stupidly, it's just excess. It's just excess because another Candace Owens inspiration, she made me realize how much what are we really being wasteful about? And sometimes you could just even be wasteful with money. Just because you can get something doesn't mean you should. It doesn't mean all this kind of stuff. So I heard this thing that she did and it just fully inspired me. And I was checking myself and I'm like, whoa, where do I need to go that's an imbalance right now? It's not balanced right now. It's not checked. And so immediately I saw the spirit check me with that spending. And I was and I walked into my daughter's room and Olivia, for 40 days. Okay. We are not going to be spending that when I like your 40 days. Sorry.
So the number 4 means whole, a whole. It's like the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 winds of the heavens. The number 4 is whole. And the number 10 is judgment, or less judgment, more correction, right? So the significance of Jesus fasting 40 days is that it was the completion of correction, right? So I bring that up because that's exactly what a fast does. It, physically it corrects. No,
I'm listening. Now I have something else to talk about because you brought something that interests me. Here is the number, vibration, and meaning. So it's interesting to know because I'm all about number, vibration. I reduce everything down to a singular digit to understand its energy, frequency, and vibration. So I know that you speak it. I like learning different ways to view things because you're saying the same thing that I know, but I say it in a different kind of way. So the number, the energy 4 is also a number of a coming together, a number of also to be celebrated and stuff like that in terms of bringing in the divine masculine, feminine energies, infusing and creating a harmony, a family type of thing, a grounding. 4 is all about grounding. You're grounding into the earth. And then 10 for me, we reduce it back to a 1, but still it's after a whole entire cycle has been completed, right? So 9 is the ending of a cycle. 10 is the new beginning of that ending of that cycle. So you're starting again from Jump Street 1 with the experience of the full cycle in going into the. So yeah, it's just interesting the understanding, right? Because I'm really big into number, frequency, and vibration because it's important to know the energies and the frequencies of those numbers. I was born on a day 4 too, so it's interesting.
Yeah, all I see is symbols now. Everything to me is symbols. Words are symbols, numbers are symbols. Everything just means something much deeper.
Yeah, I like it. I like living in that kind of symbology, not getting it too crazy. I remember when I was getting too crazy with too much symbology, I was I don't want to see nothing no more. We're done here, but you get a little neurotic.
Sometimes you get to the point where nothing means nothing. Everything means nothing.
When I started getting really sick of when 11/11, when people be oh my God, 11/11, and they were you know what 11/11 means? I'm yeah, the devil's number. How can you say that? Yeah, it's the devil's number. Okay, 11/11. There you go. But it's 4. If you think about it, the number 4. But it's funny. But yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so this was fun too, you know.
Yes.
I know that we're gonna have to start wrapping this up too because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, holy
Yes.
shit. But yeah, this was fun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save this and stuff like that. This is probably gonna air tomorrow. I don't know what I'm gonna call it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna send it to you and things like that, and then whatever. But do you have any questions for me or anything like that? Like how you wanna ask something or
No, not really.
are we gonna do this again anyways? But let me stop the recording from here and then we'll talk, like hold on. But yeah, bye everybody. Okay, bye. Till next time. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.